Welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. Polls in Montana have just closed, and in just a few moments, Donald Trump will join us right here. And Fox News is projecting he now has enough delegates to win the nomination. But first, tonight, Fox News is projecting that Hillary Clinton has, in fact, clinched the Democratic nomination. Now, she's getting ready to address supporters in Brooklyn, New York. First joining us, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich, here with reaction. I watched a very different Donald Trump tonight. In that speech, I want to get your take on it.
Well, I thought that he was exactly what he should be. He was presidential. He was controlled. It was thoughtful. It was a set-piece speech. It's what people want from a president, because they want somebody they can rely on, who's thought it through, and who they can count on to follow through. I thought it was a very big step in the right direction, and I frankly felt very, very good about it.
You have been saying that he's got to transition from primary mode. And even David Axelrod, of all people, I actually found myself in agreement with some of his comments, which is very rare, suggested that you got to transition from a primary mode into a general election mode. Do you feel he accomplished that tonight after a couple of tough days?
Well, I think he certainly made a huge step in the right direction. If he can stay on this path and stay this disciplined, he's going to be very formidable, and he's going to beat Hillary very badly this fall. She will not recover if she's caught up in a big issue election with a disciplined Donald Trump. They won't be in the same league.
You know, he talked a lot about very specific things, and the message was clear. Putting America first on foreign policy, on energy, on the economy, fixing our schools, bringing back jobs, infrastructure, all of these things, America first, and here's what America first means. So there seems to be now he's drawing that line in the sand. All right, here's Hillary. She's corrupt. I'm giving a full speech on her on Monday, but this is what the differences are. So this is going to be a choice election.
Well, look, I think Hillary's version, which is sort of setting the international order first, whatever that means, is a huge contrast to Donald Trump putting America first. And I think that you can go through item after item and see how dramatically different they are. I also want to warn the Clinton people. They shouldn't assume that getting these delegates means the end of the game. Philadelphia is potentially a very, very contentious convention, and the Sanders people aren't going to go away. And I think, for example, there'll be a big vote over an anti-Israeli vote on the floor of the Philadelphia convention, and Hillary still has a long way to go before she gets secure control of her party.
Trump actually appealed to Bernie supporters, especially because he agrees with them on some of the bad trade deals America has made. And he actually talked about the Clintons winning in a rigged system. I would argue the superdelegate system is a rigged system. And, when you have one candidate, the one with the coronation getting nearly 600 superdelegates and the other guy getting 50, clearly the establishment Democratic Party picked her from the get-go.
Well, at GingrichProductions.com, I wrote a newsletter last week talking about the idea of oligarchy versus democracy, and that ironically it's the Democrats who've decided to create this unique senior elite group that represents 40% of the votes you need to win the nomination. It's totally rigged. They're going to, I think, have to abolish it. I noticed that Elizabeth Warren came out the other day raising significant questions about it. A number of state parties are now opposing it. It's just a rigged game, and I think it further taints and corrupts the process by which Hillary is winning the nomination.
Do you think that Bernie has pushed her solidly enough to the left where she's far more uncomfortable than she otherwise would want to be at this point? Does that put her in a position that she grabs Bernie? Does she grab Elizabeth Warren to get on the ticket and run with her to appeal to the Bernie supporters that obviously feel disenfranchised?
Well, I think she's probably going to have either an African American or a Latino vice presidential nominee. I think she's probably going to accept a platform much more radical than she would like, and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are going to write a large part of that platform. But I think the bigger problem for Hillary Clinton is reality. Last Friday, we learned that the U.S. last month created one job for every 8,000 Americans. Now, an economy growing so slowly that you're only creating one new job for every 8,000 people is an economy you can't defend and yet she's trapped into defending it.
She's trapped into defending it because she's defended it all along, as she has defended a horrible foreign policy agenda, which Donald Trump went into, and that includes Iraq, the creation of ISIS, and Libya, and straight on down the line. But I think it's even worse than that, because 1 in 5 American families don't have a single family member in the workforce. 1 in 6 young American males 18 to 34 are either incarcerated or out of work. We've doubled the national debt. Obama will accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined. 12.4 million more people on food stamps, 10 million more people in poverty. I don't know how you run on those statistics. How do you run on those numbers? And don't those people that maybe bought into change, don't they feel the suffering and maybe realize that they were sold a bill of goods?
Well, that's where Donald Trump has a huge opportunity to run a very big issue campaign to go into those neighborhoods. I mean, go in the neighborhoods where people are unemployed. Go in the neighborhoods, for example, Chicago's had a 50% increase in shootings this year. Just to run in there and say, wouldn't you like to have a president who cared enough to try to stop the killings? Might be very attractive to African Americans in Southside Chicago who have been totally neglected by Hillary Clinton, who's, by the way, a native of Chicago, and totally neglected by Barack Obama, who came from Chicago.
Yeah. Let me ask, you have said many times in this program that Donald Trump's at his best when he thinks big, when he goes big. Yeah, I want you to expand on that thought, because especially in light of the controversy this week, and you were critical on Sunday, and then I noticed, you know, the Republicans that wouldn't fight Obama were quick to jump on Donald Trump, which bothers me somewhat, because if they would have fought Obama as hard as they're fighting Trump, maybe they would have stopped some of Obama's agenda, but that's a different story. But more specifically, what did you mean by going big versus small?
Well, offering the kind of infrastructure program that a great builder like Donald Trump could imagine, whether it's ports, highways, railroads, rebuilding America so we're a first world country again, so we're the most competitive nation in the world. Rethinking all of the regulatory process to make it easy for small businesses to get started. Trump understands exactly the importance of small businesses, and he could become the small business candidate while Hillary is the bureaucratic red tape candidate, doing what he is doing. Let's get it up here to this level. He wants to put America first. She wants to put some vague, confusing internationalism first. He wants real results. He thinks that Libya is a failure. What does she think? He thinks that Somalia is a failure. What does she think? If he gets it up to that level and keeps it at that level, he's going to beat her badly, because the results are so terrible at every level, including, by the way, in the Latino community, where you can really go in and talk about jobs and education and health care and have a very strong audience that wants their children to have a better future.
All right, let me ask you a deeper question, especially if we're going to put America first in foreign policy. I was a supporter of the Iraq War, although I always liked Trump's idea of having them pay for it and give us the oil, especially for military families that have sacrificed so much. But if we don't learn from Vietnam, where we lost 58,000 people and we pulled out early and we didn't win the war, if we win Mosul, Tikrit, Fallujah, and Ramadi, only to have another president politicize the war, pull out, and allow ISIS to take its place, the very cities Americans fought, bled, and died for, American treasure, do we really have to now consider the idea that America doesn't have the stomach for any long, protracted type of conflict in light of those two recent examples?
No, I think what we have to say is Americans are very much in favor of wars that are unavoidable. World War II, where the Japanese attacked us.
Different story.
Right after 9/11. And Americans are very much for smart wars. Remember, Ronald Reagan built up the American military dramatically. He never engaged in a big conflict. He was very, very careful. I don't think Trump wants to run from ISIS. Trump wants to take American firepower, American intelligence capabilities, work with the Saudis, the Turks, and others, and destroy ISIS. But one of the differences is Trump is prepared to recognize that Russia's a real player.
You see,
so Trump would say
that's a more intelligent
destroying
approach,
ISIS is more important than being irritated with Putin.
You're the historian. Isn't that the more intelligent approach in light of how we've now learned that wars can be politicized halfway through, and that the American public appetite for long-term conflict doesn't exist?
Look, 500 years before Christ, Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War, which is the most
I've read it many times.
treatise on warfare.
Right.
And he says in there there are no good long wars.
Yeah.
We've been at war now for 14 years since 9/11. If this was World War II, this would be 1955. If we were still fighting Imperial Japan in 1955, we would be torn apart as a country. So I think Trump has an instinct here.
I agree with you.
Be very careful. Rebuild your military.
Yeah.
Build up your allies and insist that they take their share of the burden. And then do things decisively with minimum risk to Americans. I think that's close to what Eisenhower and Reagan believed in.
All right, good point. We'll continue. Newt Gingrich stays with us right after the break, and later we're going to talk with the GOP nominee, Donald Trump. That and more on this busy news night. And, of course, the polls in California closing in 1 hour from right now. Well, less than that, about, 49 minutes. We'll continue. News can now project that Donald Trump has won the Montana Republican primary. Hillary Clinton is about to hold an address to supporters in Brooklyn, New York. When she steps onto the stage, we'll dip in and take a little of that. But first, we continue with former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. I'm going to play two videos. This is now becoming a very common occurrence at Trump events. The first video is in San Jose. A young woman is surrounded by like a mob. Many of them have Mexican flags, and they actually come right up to her face and throw an egg at this poor woman. I'm going to run that, and then you're going to see a young man literally being chased by a mob, again in San Jose. That happened the other day, and I want to get your comment on it. Let's roll this tape. You can see a woman being punched here. You see another brawl breaking out here. Again, these are anti-Trump. Now, this kid in the red shirt. Now, watch. You got these guys with their faces covered. They chase him. He starts running because there's so many people following him. And then, of course, you got the media. They're following as well. But you got a mob of people. This guy in the yellow shirt got hit so hard. You can see there he's bleeding from outside of his ear when he got hit and cold-cocked by the guy. The kid in the red shirt continues to run and gets tackled by one of these guys. This is happening at every event, almost now. It's now a regular occurrence. What do you think's happening? How do you analyze this?
Well, this is the Scott Walker effect in Madison, where you had over 100,000 left-wingers show up to protest the results of the Wisconsin election. You see this over and over again. There's a fascism of the left, which believes that it has the moral right to impose by violence and by intimidation. You'll notice it's not Trump people. You don't see this at a Sanders rally. You don't see this at a Hillary rally. And you get this on college campuses. I talked to a parent tonight whose two sons go to two very different elite schools, each of which makes the son feel like they should be very quiet. They should recognize that they can't be publicly conservative. They should recognize that they're supposed to feel guilty about being white. And the level of left-wing coercion and intimidation, literally fascism, on the left that we are now experiencing in America is startling, and the first standard ought to be that the police should enforce the law. These people ought to go to jail.
Well, the San Jose mayor actually blamed Donald Trump for what these people did. You try to reform this corrupt system, and you're going to have the people who are winning from the corruption get really angry, and they're going to be in the streets. All right, a former Secret Service agent, the guy that was outside of the White House door. I'm sure you probably met him because you were Speaker.
I know him.
Chris Byrne. All right. So he's written this book, Crisis of Character. It's coming out a month before the Democratic Convention. He says Hillary Clinton lacks the integrity and the temperament to serve in office. He further went on to say and talk about in the book that she has an appalling leadership style, an explosive temper, impulsive, enabled by sycophants, and think the rules don't apply to her, and has no business being president of the United States. How seriously should the American people take those comments?
Well, I think people who are already troubled by the corruption of the Clinton Foundation, who are already troubled by the emails that are breaking national security, I think those folks are going to find this book very compelling. I think the fanatic Hillary supporters, are just going to shrug it off like they shrugged everything else off.
Yeah, they probably will. Do you think this FBI primary, do you think James Comey, looking into the email server scandal, and we have a former U.S. attorney said it's a red flag that one lawyer is representing four of the people in that case earlier today. Do you think that if the FBI and James Comey puts forth a criminal referral and they decide not to indict at the Justice Department, do you think that's a likely possibility?
No, I think if they recommend a prosecution, that the Justice Department is going to go along with them, because I don't think Attorney General Lynch wants to go down in history as somebody who stopped the FBI from pursuing justice. But I have to tell you, Sean, when you read today the State Department saying it would take them 75 years to undo the emails of Clinton's associates, 75 years. You can't get a better argument for, frankly, abolishing the State Department in its current form and rehiring and creating a whole new system. I mean, this government is so out of, you had the same thing with the IRS yesterday. This government is so out of touch with reality. The bureaucrats are so arrogant. The rules are so written against the American people that we're going to have a very, very deep house cleaning to get the American government to be manageable again.
By the way, on the other side of the screen, it looks like we're showing Clinton headquarters. Looks like they turned the lights down. Apparently there's going to be a big video that they're going to be showing. They're making a big deal of the fact that she would be the first woman nominated by a major party to run for president. Obviously, she's tried to play the gender card before. Well, how big a part will that play in the campaign?
Well, look, it is a big deal. I mean, I think at some level, virtually every woman in the country has some level of pride that we've now broken the ultimate glass ceiling in American politics. On the other hand, I find particularly with younger women, there's not a great deal of excitement about somebody like Hillary Clinton, who has been fighting this stuff since 1972, been around forever, has all these scandals surrounding her. There's not some sense that she's owed it. That I think younger women actually are beginning to believe we'll get a woman president in the near future, just as we have women governors and women U.S. senators and congresswomen, and these things are all coming down the road. It is a big moment. I think people should at least recognize that it's a remarkable thing about America, just as electing an African American was a remarkable thing about America. But I don't think that means she's going to win the election on the women's vote, because I think her record on security and her record on jobs is so terrible, and the cost of her health system is so expensive that most women are going to decide they can't afford Hillary Clinton.
How do you think, if you had to rate her, she kind of seems to have supported Obama's economic policies. We know where she stands on Libya. We know that she messed up in Benghazi. We know that ISIS took over in Iraq. We know that Iran now is getting nuclear weapons and all this money that we otherwise wouldn't have given them. I've got to imagine that the record matters, and I got to imagine that the millions more in poverty on food stamps, out of work and out of the labor force, maybe after 8 years of Obama, figured out that liberalism is not, it may be full of great hope and promise, but reality is it has failed once again.
Yeah, I think there's a great opportunity for Trump to run a results versus words campaign. And just point out that she has all the words down. She's got great speech writers. She sounds really good. She went to really fancy schools. But here are the results. And as I said earlier, when you learn that the U.S. last month created one job for every 8,000 Americans, you know the results are terrible.
You look at the disaster. I'm watching the support of Hillary, and I watched 8 years of Obama. I always thought America was a center-right country. Is America no longer a center-right country? Will this election tell us whether it is or not?
No, I think Obama was a unique moment in American history. And remember, he ran as a centrist. He promised us
he hid his radicalism, and the media helped him.
You were the only person in that first campaign who correctly pointed out day after day the radical roots of Obamaism.
You actually called me, you told me I was going too hard on him one time. I don't know if you remember that phone call. You actually said, you need to chill out a little bit, Hannity. I think that phone call came from you. All right, well,
yeah, I was wrong.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I did not mean it that way. Have you gotten a call about, we're about to have to take this speech. Did you get a call from the Trump people about either your comments on Sunday or about being VP?
Yeah, look, I'm talking with a lot of the Trump people. I hope to talk to Donald tomorrow. And I think that everything's now moving in the right direction. And I'm very, very positive about how it's developing.
All right, here's Hillary Clinton. She is in Brooklyn, New York. The lights were out. Maybe they showed a movie. I heard that there was going to be a video that was going to be part of this presentation tonight. She addresses supporters. She has now clinched the Democratic nomination. Look at that big smile. What a moment for Hillary. As she takes to the podium in Brooklyn, New York, we'll dip in and see what she has to say.
Wonderful to be back in Brooklyn here in this beautiful building. And it may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now. But don't worry, we're not smashing this one. Thanks to you, we've reached a milestone. The first time in our nation's history that a woman will be a major party's nominee. Tonight's victory is not about one person. It belongs to generations of women and men who struggled and sacrificed and made this moment possible. In our country, it started right here in New York, a place called Seneca Falls in 1848. When a small but determined group of women and men came together with the idea that women deserved equal rights, and they set it forth in something called the Declaration of Sentiments, and it was the first time in human history that that kind of declaration occurred. So we all owe so much to those who came before, and tonight belongs to all of you. I want to thank all the volunteers, community leaders, the activists and organizers who supported our campaign in every state and territory. And thanks especially to our friends in New Jersey for such a resounding victory tonight. Thanks for talking to your neighbors, for making contributions. Your efforts have produced a strong majority of the popular vote, victories in a majority of the contests, and after tonight, a majority of pledged delegates. Across our country who have taken the time to talk with me. I've learned a lot about you, and I've learned about those persistent problems and the unfinished promise of America that you are living with. So many of you feel like you're out there on your own, that no one has your back. Well, I do. I hear you. I see you. And as your president, I will always have your back. I want to congratulate Senator Sanders for the extraordinary campaign he has run. his long career in public service, fighting for progressive causes and principles, and he's excited millions of voters, especially young people. And let there be no mistake, Senator Sanders, his campaign, and the vigorous debate that we've had about how to raise incomes, reduce inequality, increase upward mobility have been very good for the Democratic Party and for America. This has been a hard-fought, deeply felt campaign. But whether you supported me or Senator Sanders or one of the Republicans, we all need to keep working toward a better, fairer, stronger America. Now, I know it never feels good to put your heart into a cause or a candidate you believe in and to come up short. I know that feeling well. But as we look ahead, to the battle that awaits, let's remember all that unites us. We all want an economy with more opportunity and less inequality, where Wall Street can never wreck Main Street again. We all want a government that listens to the people, not the power brokers, which means getting unaccountable money out of politics. And we all want a society that is tolerant, inclusive, and fair. We all believe that America succeeds when more people share in our prosperity, when more people have a voice in our political system, when more people can contribute to their communities. We believe that cooperation is better than conflict, unity is better than division, empowerment is better than resentment, and bridges are better than walls. Simple but powerful idea. We believe that we are stronger together, and the stakes in this election are high, and the choice is clear. Donald Trump is temperamentally unfit to be president and he's not just trying to build a wall between America and Mexico. He's trying to wall off Americans from each other. When he says, let's make America great again, that is code for, let's take America backwards. Back to a time when opportunity and dignity were reserved for some, not all. Promising his supporters an economy he cannot recreate. We want to write the next chapter in American greatness with a 21st century prosperity that lifts everyone who's been left out and left behind, including those who may not vote for us, but who deserve their chance to make a new beginning. When Trump says a distinguished judge born in Indiana can't do his job because of his Mexican heritage, or he mocks a reporter with disabilities, or calls women pigs, it goes against everything we stand for. Because we want an America where everyone is treated with respect and where their work is valued. It's clear that Donald Trump doesn't believe we are stronger together. He has abused his primary opponents and their families, attacked the press for asking tough questions, denigrated Muslims and immigrants. He wants to win by stoking fear and rubbing salt in wounds, and reminding us daily just how great he is. Well, we believe we should lift each other up, not tear each other down. We need to give Americans a raise, not complain that hardworking people's wages are too high. We believe we need to help young people struggling with student debt, not pile more on our national debt with giveaways to the super wealthy. We believe we need to make America the clean energy superpower of the 21st century. Insist that climate change is a hoax. To be great, we can't be small. We have to be as big as the values that define America. And we are a big-hearted, fair-minded country. We teach our children that this is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For people who look a certain way, or worship a certain way, or love a certain way. For all, indivisible. This election is not, however, about the same old fights between Democrats and Republicans. This election is different. It really is about who we are as a nation. It's about millions of Americans coming together to say, we are better than this. We won't let this happen in America. And if you agree, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, I hope you will join us. In just a few weeks, we will meet in Philadelphia, which gave birth to our nation. In that hot summer of 1776. Those early patriots knew they would all rise or fall together. Well, today that's more true than ever. Our campaign will take this message to every corner of our country. We're stronger when our economy works for everyone, not just those at the top, with good-paying jobs and good schools in every zip code, and a real commitment to all families and all regions of our nation. We are stronger when we work with our allies around the world to keep us safe, and we are stronger when we respect each other, listen to each other, and act with a sense of common purpose. We're stronger when every family and every community knows they're not on their own, because we are in this together. It really does take a village to raise a child. To build a stronger future for us all. I learned this a long time ago from the biggest influence in my life, my mother. She was my rock from the day I was born till the day she left us. She overcame a childhood marked by abandonment and mistreatment, and somehow managed not to become bitter or broken. My mother believed that life is about serving others, and she taught me never to back down from a bully, which it turns out was pretty good advice. this past Saturday would have been her 97th birthday because she was born on June 4th, 1919, and some of you may know the significance of that date. On the very day my mother was born in Chicago, Congress was passing the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. Women the right to vote. And I really wish my mother could be here tonight. I wish she could see what a wonderful mother Chelsea has become and could meet our beautiful granddaughter, Charlotte. And of course, I wish she could see her daughter become the Democratic Party's nominee. Ceilings to break for women and men, for all of us, but don't let anyone tell you that great things can't happen in America. Barriers can come down. Justice and equality can win. Our history has moved in that direction, slowly at times, but unmistakably, thanks to generations of Americans who refuse to give up or back down. Now you are writing a new chapter of that story. This campaign is about making sure there are no ceilings, no limits on any of us, and this is our moment to come together. So please join our campaign, volunteer, go to HillaryClinton.com, contribute what you can. Text JOIN, J-O-I-N, to 47246. Help us organize in all 50 states. Every phone call you make, every door you knock on will move us forward. Now I'm going to take a moment later tonight and the days ahead to fully absorb the history we've made here. But what I care about most is the history our country has yet to write. Our children and grandchildren will look back at this time, at the choices we are about to make, the goals we will strive for, the principles we will live by. And we need to make sure that they can be proud of us. The end of the primaries is only the beginning of the work we're called to do. But if we stand together, we will rise together because we are stronger together. Let's go out and make that case to America. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
All right, there's Hillary Clinton accepting the Democratic nomination in Brooklyn, New York. Very enthusiastic group of Brooklyn supporters. And joining us now, Fox News senior correspondent Geraldo Rivera, Fox News contributor Tucker Carlson, and, well, did you dress for the occasion? Or
Literacy Partners, a benefit, a charity.
Here's my take. Seriously, I'm listening very closely. I'm thinking, oh, Wall Street, Main Street. She goes through all these things. I'm like, what are you talking about? This woman made more money, $225,000 a pop, giving more Wall Street banker speeches than anybody in the history of mankind. Her and her husband in 2 years made $50 million sucking up to these people.
Well, keep preaching the gospel. I think that it is important, and it might wear down some of the glow from this admittedly historic evening.
Well, I thought the Trump speech was far more interesting.
But our friend must stop self-inflicting injuries on himself, which he has done. He must grow the Republican Party, not shrink it. And I think with her tone and the tenor, reaching out to the Sanders voters.
But she can claim that Donald Trump's temporarily unfit to be president, but there's a Secret Service guy that watched her for 8 years and her husband in the White House, and he says she's temperamentally unfit for the office. And with her explosive temper.
I agree, but you know what she's going to do, Sean? She's going to spend $1 billion highlighting all of his intemperate remarks. The more she portrays him as a crazy person, as an temperamentally unfit person, and she does it in that modulated tone. You notice she's stopping the shrieking now. Now she's sounding more, dare I say, presidential. It may, but so far, I think from her point of view, so good. I think that Trump he dug himself a hole. I thought Speaker Gingrich earlier today was chastened by his taking on Donald Trump.
You know what? He got what he wanted. He was sending a message, and the message was, hey, be smart. Stop. This is not a primary. This is now a general election. And I'll throw that. You know, I watched the speech. This is my take, Tucker. Every poll-tested word and phrase, cliche, I heard in the Hillary speech. Thoughts?
Yeah, it was banal, but here's what I was so struck by. It was missing the main lesson of her race against Bernie. How did a 74-year-old charmless Menshevik run this race all the way to June? Because he's actually running on something. He has an actual economic program. It's insane, but it speaks to the real concerns and anxieties of the middle class. What was her speech just about?
All right, I got to take a break.
Banal identity politics.
I got to take a quick break. When we come back, my interview with Donald Trump is straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. He'll counter what she just said. And welcome back to Hannity. So Fox News is now projecting Donald Trump has enough bound delegates now to clinch the Republican nomination. Earlier tonight, I spoke with the presumptive GOP nominee. Let's take a look. Mr. Trump, I know you released a lengthy statement today as it relates to the whole Trump University case. Included in that is a website where people can look at the comments, the approval of all those students that liked your course. Two questions regarding this. One, do you think you should have stuck to the politics of the case, where the judge clearly has a political agenda, and do you regret that at all?
No, I like to say what it is, and so many people are now seeing that this whole thing is a disgrace. We have thousands of people, I don't know exactly, like 10,000 or something thereabout, where they're really happy with it. They gave it great marks, excellence, and very, very good, and all of these great marks. They wrote beautiful statements down. We have thousands and thousands of these evaluations.
Thousands of these evaluations, where they evaluate after the course is finished. They evaluate, and I'm going through a trial. It's a disgrace. And frankly, I thought, and a lot of people thought, we should have won that trial on summary judgment. We shouldn't have to go through. But we're going to win it. Look, when all of these people come up and give you these great evaluations, like report cards, and also the people that took the course, the people that became plaintiffs, they have evaluations that are so incredible. I mean, these are the people suing to get their money back. They want to get their money back. The evaluations are incredible. And the woman who originally brought the case was a total disaster, an absolute disaster for the plaintiff. And what happened, I mean, they saw how bad she was. They took her deposition. She was a complete and utter mess as far as their case is concerned. So they go to the judge and they ask the judge, we want to get her out of the case. He lets her out of the case. And we said, great, that means we win the case, because the plaintiff has just dropped out of the case. They left her out of the case, but he wants the case to continue. So it's really unfair. We have thousands and thousands of people, but I'm not even going to talk about it anymore, Sean. Look, I want to talk about jobs. I want to talk about our depleted military. I want to talk about our borders and drugs pouring through into our country.
But I want to talk about things
like that. I don't want to even talk about it anymore.
But, you know, in my investigation, I found out that Bill Clinton got paid $16.5 million as being the chancellor of Laureate University, which is a worldwide, mostly online university, with many complaints in Rio, many complaints in Chile, many complaints in Latin America. He got paid this money. Hillary invited and included this group at a State Department dinner. $16.5 million is a lot. And as many, if not more, complaints than what you have gotten. But I don't think most people have heard of Laureate University. So I've got to believe that's frustrating to you.
Not only that, look, an Obama appointee judge, which, you know, say what you want, but it was an Obama appointee, and the law firm appointed or okayed by the judge, The law firm gave hundreds of thousands. I think it was 900,000 or 700,000.
About 650.
In speaking fees. In speaking fees to the Clintons for speaking. It must have been a great speech. But they gave that in speaking fees to the Clintons.
Yeah.
Plus, they contributed tremendous amounts of money to the campaign. Plus, they paid a lot of money to Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General of New York. They gave him campaign contributions. And the whole thing is disgusting. We're going to win on trial. Look, when you have thousands and thousands of accolades for this deal, that's why I never settled it. How can you settle something where people like it? So
one last comment.
Off it. I look forward to the trial.
When you hear Republicans, I watched Republicans attack you in the last 24 hours, and I'm thinking, I haven't heard some of these Republicans attack Barack Obama, who was able to pass his entire agenda because they wouldn't fight him as hard as they're fighting you. Is that a feeling you have?
Well, it's sad. I don't care where the judge comes from or where judges come from. I just want to I want to get a fair shake. And we've had some very unfair opinions coming down, and you wonder what's going on. And I will tell you, it's a little disappointing. Some of the Republicans, and in all fairness, there's some of the people that I went through war with, and I won. And there's a lot of anxiety there. There's a lot of anger. I guess anger. They just can't come back. They can't get over it. So they have to get over it, ideally. As to whether or not they endorse me, it's okay if they don't. But they have to get over it. They shouldn't be so angry for so long.
As you move forward in this campaign cycle, I would assume that Hillary Clinton, that everything has to be fair game. What if do you see a scenario where it's possible, because there's this whole FBI primary, if you will, and James Comey, if he makes a criminal referral, now she's won the nomination. Does that change the game? Do you suspect the Democrats would want to take that nomination away from her? And would that concern you?
Well, even Bernie Sanders yesterday was referring to the criminal problem she has with the FBI. And I will tell you that a lot of people who have done far less wrong than what she's done are right now destroyed. Their whole life is destroyed. And whether it's General Petraeus or others, and they did a fraction of what she did. So it's going to be very interesting to see. She's being protected, otherwise they wouldn't have let it go on this long. But she has really done things that were wrong and illegal.
All right, coming up, polls are about to close in the big state of California. We'll have more Hannity right after this quick break. Thanks for being with us. Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. Polls are about to close any second in the state of California. Stay with the Fox News channel for continuing coverage. We will be live all night. Let not your heart be troubled. Brett, Megan, Bill, and Martha are standing by, and they'll take you through the rest of the night. California closes in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Anyway, have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.